it's your husband's funeral, and as the chief mourner, you should arrive early. That's right. Everyone is waiting. Suddenly, a call came from an unregistered number, and while I was suspicious, I answered it only to hear my former mother-in-law saying something outrageous. It seems my former father-in-law was also there, and I braced myself for what was to come. What's the sudden call for? That's because Tom has died. You owe him a lot, right? It's only natural for you to serve as the chief mourner. Oh, and make sure you wrap up the condolence money properly. Chief mourner, but also give condolence money? The things the mother-in-law was saying made no sense, and it started to give me a headache. Didn't I attend Tom's funeral last year? What? What is there to be surprised about? It has been about a year since I was informed of Tom's death, and I attended the funeral. The in-laws probably hadn't realized I was there. What do you mean? The father-in-law's voice was trembling. I took a moment to breathe and then began to explain about attending Tom's funeral. My name is Catherine. I am currently 41 years old and work as a nurse. My 3-year-old daughter, Anne, has been learning new words at daycare. And she talks to me like a little grown-up. She's at a very cute age. And I am willing to work hard at my job and do all the household chores just to raise her. In fact, I am a single mother who was once married and then divorced 3 years ago. My ex-husband's name was Tom, a taxi driver who was 4 years older than me. When we first met, Tom was gentlemanly, and even though I was in my mid-30s, I found myself very interested in him. Professionally speaking, I earned a bit more than him. But I was so smitten with Tom at the time that it didn't matter to me. I believed that I would continue to have happy days with Tom forever. I never doubted that until we parted ways. I want to explain in order why I ended up divorcing Tom. Our meeting was at a local singles event that was held regularly. Being engrossed in my work, I had missed what some call the marriageable age, and started to feel lonely about spending my life alone. At 36, I thought my chances of getting married were slim. But I believed that nothing would start if I didn't take action. So, I attended a mixer recommended by a friend. It was a town event in New York, with a large attendance, roughly estimated at about 100 men and women. The event was tailored for women in their 30s and men from 30 to 50. So I was relieved that I didn't have to compete with women in their 20s. However, even among those in their 30s, the men tended to approach women in their early 30s, and I, being 36, was quickly losing my fighting spirit. That's when Tom, who happened to be at the same table, struck up a conversation with me. It's a bit cramped here, isn't it? Would you like to talk in a quieter place, just the two of us? Yes, I was feeling the same way. Tom found a way into the gaps in my heart and made time for us to talk alone. Furthermore, he was a reasonably good-looking man. And I guessed he must have been popular in his youth. He worked as a taxi driver. I wasn't very concerned about annual income as a condition for marriage. But I know some women are. Maybe that's why a good-looking man like Tom was still single. This is my first time at an event like this. I wasn't sure how to act. It took a lot of courage to talk to someone as beautiful as you, Ms. Catherine. No? Thank you. I blushed immediately at the compliment, not used to such praise. Honestly, I wasn't typically considered beautiful, so I quickly realized Tom's words were flattery. Yet, I was very happy he said it. Afterwards, we got along well, talking about hobbies and what we do on weekends without any issues. And by the end of the mixer, we had become quite close. We exchanged contact information and went on several dates after that. Though he was an adult man, our dates were not just quiet meals. He also took me to movies and aquariums, responding to my requests. If I didn't consider income, he was a perfect marriage partner. And as we dated more, I started to really like Tom and fell in love with him normally. At 36, I never thought I'd experience that sweet and sour feeling of love again. But I believed one couldn't marry without love, so I took the initiative and asked Tom out. He was surprised by my confession, but soon smiled and said, "Please take care of me." This is how our serious relationship started. Considering our ages, Tom proposed quite soon after we started dating. I was so happy and immediately said yes. I was deeply grateful and happy that he chose a woman not so young as me. When we started our married life, I surprisingly became pregnant within half a year. I myself was astonished. Many of my friends who married in their 30s struggled to conceive, and I had almost given up on the idea of having children. But I was overjoyed and quickly shared the news with Tom. He was shocked and wide-eyed with surprise. "Catherine, is that true?" Yes. I've had it confirmed at the hospital, so there's no mistake." "I see." Tom looked down quietly. Was there some inconvenience? However, the next moment, he was back to his usual smile, saying, "That's great." At that point, I was completely relieved. But I was yet to know that the situation had already taken a drastic turn. Although I had started my life as a pregnant woman, I was always feeling unwell during the pregnancy. Some pregnant women seem to travel or go to hot springs during their stable period. But I was far from feeling active enough to do so. The morning sickness was terrible, and not only could I not do any household chores, but even in the stable period, I constantly felt weak and couldn't eat anything, let alone have conversations with Tom. Even when Tom asked, "Are you okay?" I could only respond vaguely with, "Yeah, well." Eventually, perhaps giving up on conversing with me, Tom began to leave me alone during my pregnancy, creating some distance between us. Despite feeling lonely, I believed that once the baby was born, we could return to our happy family life as before. I managed to get through the pregnancy clinging to that belief. 8 months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. I named her Anne and called her that during my hospital stay. Her chubby cheeks were so adorable, and despite the hardships of childbirth, I felt it was all worth it. Tom couldn't be there for the birth due to work and didn't show up at the hospital at all. Even when I contacted him, all I got back was, "I've been really busy with work." And since he mentioned work, I couldn't argue. Eventually, Tom never showed up, and my hospital stay ended. I had no choice but to take a taxi home alone with Anne. Looking at the taxi driver's back, I wondered if Tom was driving around like this somewhere. As I opened the front door, saying, "I'm home," I was shocked to find unfamiliar women's shoes lined up. What does this mean? Before I could think, I was startled by the sound of a man and woman's voices coming from the bedroom. I cautiously approached the bedroom and peeked inside. "What are you doing?" To my astonishment, I saw Tom embracing a young woman who seemed almost 20 years younger than me. "What?" The woman, startled by my voice, turned around in a panic, completely naked. Tom also looked at me in shock. "Catherine, was today your discharge day?" I didn't know. He tried to act calm, but in this situation, Tom's words were utterly ridiculous. "Lies. I informed you yesterday." "Ah, right. I forgot. Sorry. Given the circumstances, let's get a divorce." Feeling it tedious to be blamed, and now that his affair was out in the open, Tom quickly suggested we divorce, which made me feel nauseous. There was no time to be upset about having just had a child. "So, please get a divorce quickly." "Thank you." The woman, shamelessly facing the wife of her affair partner, didn't show any sign of disturbance and said it matter-of-factly. I was too shocked to respond. The fact that Tom had already prepared the divorce papers made me even more sad and angry. He had intended to divorce me from the beginning. While his wife was suffering from pregnancy complications, he was enjoying an affair. The thought of him doing this even during childbirth sent chills down my spine. It's your fault. I didn't want kids. So I married you since you were already 36, yet you easily got pregnant. Tom insulted me in a tone I had never heard before. Crying, I received the divorce papers. Anne began to cry midway, and I became flustered. Even seeing us like this, Tom only sent a cold gaze, as if to say, kids really are annoying, huh? The nightmare day ended, and I wobbly went to submit the divorce papers. It all happened so fast, I couldn't keep up. After informing my parents and deciding to stay with them for a while, they were furious. They seemed ready to confront Tom, but I refused. Punishing Tom wouldn't heal my wounds. It would only hurt more if he harbored a grudge. After I explained this, they reluctantly backed down. Later, with my parents' help, I raised and eventually returned to work once things settled. As Anne was about to turn 2, the wounds from the divorce had completely healed. And I had become accustomed to balancing work and childcare. However, an unexpected event occurred. It was on a Sunday afternoon. My parents said, "Take some time to rest alone," and took Anne out with them, leaving me alone at home to relax and watch TV. Hearing the doorbell, I thought it might be a delivery, so I opened the front door. You are? I was speechless at the sight of the person standing there, someone I recognized. A young woman in her mid-20s with a tall and slender figure. Her nails were elaborately done, and her makeup was quite heavy. Yet, she was the kind of beauty that would turn heads in a crowd. I realized she was the woman who had been in the bedroom with Tom. But why was she now at my parents' house? My mind was filled with questions, and I was frozen, unable to speak. Hello, it's been a while. My name is Hillary. To get straight to the point, my husband Tom recently passed away. There's a funeral tomorrow, and you're asked to attend. Please bring a condolence offering. If you don't, your daughter's life will be in danger. Hillary spoke in a monotone voice, her gaze piercing me. Her eyes seemed to view me as an enemy, and I felt a fear of her. Despite her being much younger. Above all, her threat about my daughter's life chilled me to the bone. Is it true that Tom has passed away? Yes. It was a fatal accident. He died instantly. Hillary's lack of emotion, even as she spoke of her husband's death, made me wonder if she lacked any human empathy. But why should I attend his funeral? You and Tom betrayed me. I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but I don't think I have any obligation to attend his funeral. Despite my fear, I firmly told Hillary this. Then, her expression suddenly twisted into something grotesque and terrifying. Instinctively, I screamed. Stop your whining. If you don't bring the condolence money, your daughter's life is at risk. Don't make me repeat myself, old woman. Her voice seemed to come from the depths of the earth, and my body shrank in fear. Her drastic change and the reality of her threat made me fear for my daughter's safety. Knowing she was aware of where my parents lived, targeting my young daughter seemed all too easy for her. I asked Hillary for the location of Tom's funeral to protect Anne. Make sure you bring the condolence money. Hillary emphasized the condolence money again before leaving my house. I collapsed at the entrance, paralyzed by fear, and couldn't move for a while. When my parents and Anne returned, they found me in a daze. My mother asked what happened, and I only told them about Hillary's visit and Tom's death, omitting the threats and the demand to attend the funeral. The next night, after work, I attended Tom's funeral, telling my parents I was going to dinner with a friend from school. I left Anne with them, dressed in casual clothes, and changed into morning attire at the venue. At the reception, I handed over the condolence money, and Hillary looked at me expressionlessly. I replied with an innocuous greet and attended the funeral. Seeing my former in-laws again, they seemed much thinner than when Tom and I had divorced. We didn't have much interaction beyond formal greetings and New Year's visits, as Tom didn't want to involve me too much with them. At the end of the funeral, I greeted to my in-laws, but they didn't react, treating me like any other attendee, seemingly having forgotten about me. After the funeral, I quickly returned home. A year passed, and turned 3, marking 3 years since my separation from Tom. I had started living alone with and after Tom's funeral, not wanting to burden my parents further and fearing Hillary might show up again. One day, I received a call from an unknown number while preparing dinner after picking up Anne from daycare. Hesitant to answer an unfamiliar number, I eventually pressed the call button and cautiously said, "Hello," waiting to hear who was on the other side. From the other end of the phone, I could hear the caller's rough breathing, which puzzled me. "It's your husband's funeral, and as the chief mourner, you should come early." "That's right. Everyone is waiting." The callers were Tom's parents, and my former mother-in-law was saying something outrageous. It seemed my former father-in-law was also there, and I braced myself for what was to come. "What's the sudden call for?" "That's because Tom has died. You owe him a lot, right? It's only natural for you to serve as the chief mourner." "Oh. And make sure you wrap up the condolence money properly." Chief mourner, but also give condolence money? The things the mother-in-law was saying made no sense, and it started to give me a headache. Didn't I attend Tom's funeral last year? Confused, I responded, and the in-laws exclaimed in surprise, "What? What is there to be surprised about? It has been about a year since I was informed of Tom's death and I attended the funeral." The in-laws probably hadn't realized I was there. "What do you mean?" The father-in-law's voice was trembling. I took a moment to breathe and then began to explain about attending Tom's funeral. A year ago, Hillary visited my parents' house unexpectedly and told me to attend Tom's funeral. She threatened me, saying my daughter's life was at risk if I didn't. She kept saying, "Bring the condolence money, just like you are now." I told them about the events of the previous year in a calm manner. I could sense them gasping over the phone. "Condolence money? What are you talking about? That woman did what? Can we meet you directly right now?" "Now? I'm home with and asleep. If you're coming to my house, then I guess it's okay." I didn't want to get involved in any trouble, but considering the unpredictable behavior of the in-laws and Hillary, I reluctantly agreed to their request. He understood. "We're coming now, so give us your address." After giving my anxious in-laws my address, they arrived in about 30 minutes. "Sorry for intruding." The in-laws barged into the room. I was taken aback by their actions and forgot to offer them tea. "We want to know everything. What did Hillary tell you?" It seemed the in-laws had a harsh opinion of Hillary, grimacing every time her name was mentioned. As I said before, Hillary threatened me. And I attended Tom's funeral with condolence money. I even greeted to you, but it seems you didn't notice. That's terrible. The mother-in-law trembled with anger. That woman took all the condolence money and stole everything valuable from our house before running away. We ended up paying for the funeral expenses. The mother-in-law's eyes blazed with fury. It became clear that Hillary had taken all the condolence money meant for the funeral expenses. The in-laws, desperate, concocted a plan to extract new condolence money from me by fabricating Tom's funeral, thinking they could take the money and run. Hillary claimed she married Tom believing he was a company president. She's a spendthrift with a mountain of debt. We've been made co-signers of her debts and are now being forced to repay them. She's the worst. The in-laws expressed their frustration. The mother-in-law added that she had always opposed the marriage, and even suggested that Tom's death might have been orchestrated by Hillary for insurance money. The in-laws' opinion of Hillary was incredibly low, and as an outsider, I wanted to cover my ears from their ugly words. I was also worried that and might wake up due to the noise. Despite their anger towards Hillary, they had come to me with a fabricated story about a funeral to ask for money, which remained unchanged. They never have been apologetic to me when Tom cheated and we ended up divorcing. Yet now, they were full of anger towards Hillary, putting aside their own actions. I was on the verge of exploding with anger when suddenly, my phone rang again. Another call? As I looked at the screen and saw another unknown number, I wondered about the high number of calls today. Despite my mother-in-law's suggestion it might be a sales call, a feeling of unease prompted me to answer in speakerphone mode. Hello? A raspy breath came from the other end before Hillary spoke. Hey, you've moved, haven't you? Where are you now? Excuse me? The caller was Hillary. This made both me and the in-laws exchange looks. Although I wondered how Hillary knew my number, the in-laws' guilty expressions gave it away. They must have given her my number, probably telling her to call me for money to pay off her debts. If you've moved, you should have told me. I just remembered I haven't received a wedding gift from you. Send me cash, $1,000, immediately. As expected, Hillary demanded money. A wedding gift? $1,000 in cash? It was absurd to talk about wedding gifts when her husband had died. I was not about to give a wedding gift to the woman who stole my husband. Filled with anger at being taken for a fool, I managed to keep my voice calm to avoid waking Anne. I have not a single penny to give you. I know about the debts you've accumulated, and that you stole valuable items from your in-laws' house. Hillary seemed surprised by my knowledge, her agitation clear even over the phone. I heard it from Tom's parents. Oh, and by the way, they're right here next to me. They're the ones who gave you my number. They came to beg for money from me, just like you. Really, all of you are the lowest. Including the in-laws in the room, I scolded everyone involved. Hillary, as well as the in-laws, reacted angrily. It's all because this woman took our money that we're in this situation. Exactly. It's all because you got cheated that this happened. Excuse me? Wait a minute. I'm the victim here. Tom lied to me, saying he was a company president, and I was scammed into marrying him. It's your fault for raising a con artist. A verbal brawl erupted over the phone. Listening to their selfish arguments gave my headache. It was absurd that Tom's parents were making a fuss in my house. And even more absurd that I, the actual victim, was being blamed by them. Taking a deep breath, I prepared to speak my mind. Let me say something. First, to Tom's parents. I'm someone who was hurt by Tom. Isn't it ethically wrong to come to me begging for money? I haven't heard a single apology from you. I don't care about that. It's Tom who did the wrong, not us. Seeing their refusal to acknowledge any guilt, something inside me snapped. I see. In that case, I won't hold back. I'll be reporting you to the police for attempting to defraud me by concocting a fake funeral. What? The in-laws seemed shocked at the mention of police, visibly shrinking. Please, just not the police. Hillary's crass laughter could be heard over the phone as if amused by the in-laws' plea. But I quickly put her in the same situation as well as them. Why are you laughing? You're also on my list to report to the police. What? Hillary's voice was filled with genuine shock. Why should I deal with the police? I told you I'm the victim here. I've always been poor and desperate for money. When I met Tom on a dating app, he sweet-talked me, saying he could take care of me because he was a company president. I didn't even know he was married. I was shocked to find out about you, his wife, and even had to pay alimony. I was the one deceived. Please don't report me to the police. Hillary insisted she was the victim, but listening to her, I wondered why Tom was surrounded by such deplorable people. Hillary claimed she didn't know Tom was married, which was clearly a lie. When I caught Tom and Hillary together, her reaction and demand for a quick divorce were too composed for someone supposedly in the dark. Therefore, Hillary's story of being deceived into a relationship was unbelievable. Her being swayed by Tom's claims of wealth was her own doing. Playing the victim was unacceptable to me. Concerned about waking I decided to end this madness. Stop lying. I won't fall for your tricks anymore. I'm going to hang up now and report this to the police. And to both my in-laws and Hillary, never show up in front of me again. Goodbye. I hung up the phone and then proceeded to kick the in-laws out of my house. They begged me not to report them until the end, but I ignored them and called the police right away. Soon, the police arrived, and I explained everything. The in-laws faced charges for attempted fraud, and Hillary for fraud and theft. "Mom, what's wrong?" and emerged from her room and asked me, sweating from the commotion. "Nothing, sweetheart. How about we move again?" "Move?" "Yes. I found a nice new home for us." Yay! Considering the potential for the in-laws or Hillary to find us again, I decided to move. I plan to change my phone number as well. This way, I hope to never deal with the in-laws or Hillary again. After successfully moving to a new apartment closer to my workplace, I learned more about the in-laws and Hillary. The in-laws had been scamming not just me but also relatives and colleagues. Their greedy tactics disgusted me. Learning that the in-laws were habitual fraudsters shocked me. Moving to avoid further victimization seemed like the right decision. As for Hillary, her story about growing up in poverty was a lie. Her debt resulted from lavish spending on luxury items. She worked night jobs to repay her debts and manipulated clients into buying her expensive gifts. While accepting gifts from clients might not have been an issue, one of them realized he had been scammed and testified to the police. Thus, it became clear that Hillary had been committing crimes in various places, making her crimes even more serious. I no longer wished to be involved with people like the in-laws or Hillary, who deceive others to make money. I hoped they would reflect on their actions while with the police and atone for their sins. Since moving, I have been able to live peacefully. There have been no calls from the in-laws or Hillary, and I enjoy our days together. Recently, Anne has taken a liking to a boy in her daycare, and she tells me about him in her adorable, lisping voice. Listening to her pure feelings brightens my mood as well. I pray every day that these peaceful days continue as I head to work once again.